I think Pierre Poilievre is, I don't want to say too rational. I really was a fan of Pierre Poilievre until the events of the trucker protests. Him promoting it all the way through definitely turned off most Canadians. Both sides are scary, I think. I think parts of the conservative side are scary too. But
Scary how, though?
Pierre Poilievre. I think Pierre Poilievre is, I don't want to say too rational, but I really was fan of Pierre Poilievre until the events of the trucker protests. Now,
Okay.
I think the protest for the truckers is totally fine. I think the mandate for the vaccines for the truckers is a bit dumb. Like the mandatory vaccines,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're aware. But I think after the state of where the trucker protests went to in Ottawa, blocking roads, disrupting the whole city, was way too much for getting their message across. And him promoting it all the way through definitely turned off most Canadians. And I think it turned off Canadians that were leaning towards voting him in the first place.
Well, was he leader of the opposition at that point?
He wasn't leader of the opposition, but he strongly advocated for those truckers.
Yeah.
And this is especially at a time where most of the country was strongly opposed to Justin Trudeau, and where he made his main focus to be anti-Trudeau. Now that Trudeau left and he was up against Mark Carney, people didn't really have a reason to vote for him truly because his whole initiative was bashing Trudeau. And I know that his message before with the housing crisis and the employment was justified, but his solutions at the time were too broad. Even when you go back to the interviews, like at least when I revisit the interviews, an interviewer will ask him, how are you going to fix the homeless crisis? Or how are you going to fix the economy? First, he'll mention Trudeau, and then he'll say an easy sentence, like for the housing crisis, we'll build new homes or at a reduced rate, and then everyone gets to support it. That's just not how the economy works. You can't just build new houses for cheaper rates. And I think his thing was just too much information, too little information for the big problems that he was claiming that he would solve.
But back to the truckers,
Yeah.
what would have been an appropriate mode of protest for them?
Appropriate mode of protest?
Yeah.
Well, at the start it was fine. When you have all the truckers coming downtown, but it's how long they stayed.
Okay.
They were there for way, way, way too long. And I think this is once again where the issue isn't as large as what you're making the situation to be. And for how much they disrupted Ottawa, I don't think it was a justifiable reaction. And I just think that Mark Carney, not invoking that, but cheering that, put a negative view on him. At least from a lot of people who were kind of in the middle, similar to me. Don't know if they'd vote Liberal, don't know if they could vote Conservative, or don't know if they'd vote at all because they can't make a decision. So.
Okay. Yeah, so the way I see the trucker protest is that the Liberal government actually could have had a conversation with them right away.
Oh, they could have, yeah.
And they could have stopped that. It was actually in the Liberal government's hands, right? Yeah. And they didn't for 3 weeks. They just let them sit there honking their horns like, hey, pay attention to us, right?
Yeah.
That was basically an attention grab. Like, hey, that's what protests are, attention grabs.
Yeah.
And the Liberal government just ignored them.
Yeah.
And I think, well, yes, it was perhaps a rather annoying way to protest, but I think a lot of the blame actually falls on the Liberal government for not even having official talks with them
Oh, yeah.
and literally just forcing them out, right?
Yeah. That's what I absolutely agree with. I despise the previous Liberal government's kind of motives for that. And especially because, at least in a strike, like, it's similar, it's the same thing as a strike.
Yeah.
You have to at least, even if you don't agree on a term, you have to at least have talks. And it was the neglect to have talks that really kind of angered them more. But I don't see, now that's going to sound really bad, I don't see how they're too surprised, especially from the Liberal government at the time and Justin Trudeau's policy, where they were really hard on COVID-19, especially with the vaccines. And I think even going into that, you could kind of see this is going to be dragged on for way too long. It happens with strike. It's the same thing with strikes. As soon as, like, Canada Post goes on strike, they'll wait way too long, and then as soon as Christmas comes up, they'll make a deal. And they're forced to a deal. And similar thing happened with the trucker protest. I just think that's the biggest protest that Canada's ever had, I would say. I would say it's close. There's some other ones, but like in very recent memory, it was worldwide headlines, which strikes don't often get that sort of publicity. Yeah, I agree. The Liberal government definitely pushed it for way much more than what they needed to, especially neglecting. I think, well, truckers definitely just caused too much ruckus, especially for how long they were there and for the motive that they were there as well. I think it was too...
What do you mean by the motive?
Well, I don't think that you should stay in there for a month and block all these roads. And it's not even as much about honking your horn. That doesn't matter to me. It's the disruption of the small businesses close to it and the blocking of the roads that really disrupts a lot of the Canadians, especially in the heart of the capital district in Ottawa. It's a big city. I just think I think it is like a bad law for the truckers for the COVID-19 vaccine. I just don't think that their reaction is justified, in my opinion.
Okay. But I mean, what would you do, like, to get the government's attention?
To get the, like, for
If
what?
if you had someone telling you, like, my employer forced me to get the vaccine, right? If you had someone forcing you to get the vaccine and you feel like it's not tested enough and you want to have, like, my body, my choice, that sort of view of your own sovereignty, what would you do to get the government's attention?
I don't have that view. Because personally for me, especially in a time like that, I'm not an expert. I'm not a science major. I'm not a doctor. I will trust the doctors and the people testing the vaccines, and I'll take the vaccine. I don't care if that makes me submit to the government or anything like that, but I was fine throughout COVID, never got sick, took all the vaccines, and I think that's something where I can't quite properly put myself in another person's shoes, especially most people I know took the vaccine and had no problems with it, but to be honest, I can't put myself in the shoes of not understanding, like, the need to not take the vaccine, because I was never anti-vax or any of that. I'll listen to the government, not as much the government, just the doctors making the vaccines, because they know a million times more than I do, and especially more than random people online that claim that the vaccine was undertested, even though in the end it was. We're talking about a pandemic that reshaped the whole world, reshaped the economy, put everyone's lives in jeopardy. And while it was still a disaster in the end, I think the COVID-19 vaccine, while not properly tested, definitely saved a lot of lives. And it prevented a lot of people from experiencing worse versions of the COVID-19. So
I don't know if we have the empirical data to really say that it prevented worse cases.
Well, we kind of do in terms of Canada compared to other countries of giving out the COVID-19 vaccine. Countries that gave out the COVID-19 vaccine more, and more people that took the vaccine were safer from COVID-19. So it's more of, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the COVID-19 vaccine is perfect, which it very much isn't, but in terms of the COVID-19 vaccine compared to not having a vaccine at all, it saved a lot of lives. And it's the same with many other vaccines as well. It wasn't perfect. It probably killed a few people too, but it saved a lot more lives than it killed. And I'm just saying the countries that had more widespread vaccine usage were safer. And it depends on, now, if the COVID-19 vaccines were properly used and properly distributed, that's a different story. But in terms of usage and the people that took them and the death rate, it was a lot less. Like countries like Russia, where they were too slow to give them out. Thousands and thousands died from not having the vaccine. Same with areas in the U.S. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it was better than not taking it.
Okay. I feel like we disagree on that.
That's fine.
Like even my own personal experience with the vaccine, I got vaccinated, my mother got half vaccinated, and she had a severe reaction to the vaccine.
Yeah.
So I got fully vaccinated and got COVID twice afterwards. And I know it's supposed to wear off the vaccine or whatever.
Yeah.
But the COVID that I got closest to having the vaccine, my COVID was actually much worse than my non-vaccinated family members.
Yeah.
So just even my own experience and then hearing firsthand experiences from other people, I don't think it was right for our government to force that on us, right? Because it is our own individual liberty. They should, as the government, there are two ways that you can rule a population: through fear or through talking.
Yeah.
So if they really truly believe that the vaccine was the best choice for people, then talk about it. It's a massive ad campaign. Go talk to people, tell them, hey, this is probably going to save your life or something like that. If they truly believe that, it's going to save your life. So talk to people like that. Yeah. So that's the way that a free people should be governed. But then when you get to talking about forcing people to take the vaccine, that's the other side. That's authoritarian. So that's how I see it. It was more authoritarian. You're jeopardizing the sovereignty of each person to tell them to do this thing instead of just talking it out with them.
I guess that's just where I disagree. Are you talking about just COVID-19 vaccines or vaccines in general?
Well, specifically the COVID vaccine.
Okay.
I think that was untested and unproven, really. Rolling it out to that massive scale. What are the consequences? We don't know the long-term consequences, right? So I think it was wrong for them to, definitely wrong for them to force it.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but what do you mean by long-term consequences?
Well, there's a lot of talk about, I've heard a lot of people, my mom works in healthcare, so she's had firsthand, conversations with people talking about how when they took the COVID vaccine, they've had vestibular issues ever since.
Okay.
And certain things like that. People have had long-term ongoing things. One woman, she took the COVID vaccine and she had hypothyroid. So she was able to manage her hypothyroid laterally before the vaccine. Right. But after having the vaccine, she was unable to do that without medication.